In order to preface this homily, I want to give you a snippet of a speech I made for my professional communications credit by exam. A single human can only survive for a matter of days without water. Survival time varies based on the person and different environmental factors, such as the level of exertion and the climate, but the point still stands. Water is an essential human resource. In 2018, 283 people died crossing the southwest sector of the US-Mexico border, according to US Customs and Border Patrol. Nearly every day, people suffer and die from dehydration along a grueling path in a climate that can reach up to 101 degrees in the summer. This crisis, far from being a simple political issue, is a human rights issue of the highest order. People are being deprived of their human rights. We punish those who help and aid the needy, and the lackadaisical response of the public casts a light on a persistent problem that runs throughout our society. We cannot claim to support human rights while we use this crisis as a political tool and as a way to make statements. An issue of this magnitude requires action to resolve it, even when it means extending compassion to those who may be outsiders. Now, had you come to me at the beginning of my high school career, I wouldn't have been able to tell you any part of what I just said. I was just a freshman then, and if you had asked me anything about this, I would have given you the most confused, huh, you'd ever heard. Now, plenty of people go through life like this, unaware of the issues the world faces. However, I'm not most people. I'm on this podium because I want to share with you how my journey as a young YRUU led me to become the person I am today. I've been attending YRUU churches since I was born. My parents were raised Christian, and multiple men on my father's side of the family were preachers. However, organized religion was never really a huge part of my life. I liked church, though, and when I was younger, I didn't truly know why. Looking back, I know that I liked church because it was one of the most open and accepting environments I had ever been in. People weren't being judged on sight as society teaches us. I think this policy of unyielding acceptance was why my parents had chosen to join a YRUU church. So when we moved to Dallas, we naturally tried to find a new YRUU congregation to join. We settled on this church right here, and we've continued to take the 30-minute drive down here nearly every Sunday for the past 6 years. Another part of the YRUU church that my parents really liked was its social justice aspects. For me, this ended up being something that struck a chord within me. Through the experiences of OWL and YRUU, I developed passions for reproductive justice, LGBTQ+ allyship, and immigration reform, among other things. This church introduced me to teenage communication theater, which led me to serve for over 200 hours, teaching young people about sexual health, consent, and mental well-being. I wouldn't have even known about TACT had I not been a part of this church. The service trips we went on every single summer influenced me to this day. Going into the desert and placing water to help people in need and helping to carve an irrigation trench in a community garden gave me a desire for more tangible service in my life. Even now, I'm planning to make a drop-off of much-needed supplies to an organization in Dallas which is helping immigrants during these trying times. The education I received on the trip also has trained me to force myself to interrogate myself on what I support and find more information on political issues. Thanks to my service, I plan to be politically active for the rest of my life. This religion, this system of beliefs has taught me that all life has worth and dignity, that life is defined by a search for truth, and that the web of life is to be respected and cared for. Thanks to this church, I've developed into someone I can be proud of, somebody who believes in the unyielding power of altruism. Unitarian Universalism teaches us that spirituality comes in different forms. Some people worship a single God or a host of deities. Some people define spirituality as something latent in the world around them. Others don't worship or believe anything at all. My view on spirituality is that it flows from when the human heart shines best. A chaplain reading last rites to somebody on death's door. A climber bravely challenging the highest slope. A doctor bringing someone back from the brink. Somebody simply enjoying the beauty of the natural world. The silence, reverence, and respect accorded to a temple or a historical monument. Throughout my journey through life, I've recognized that there is common energy to these moments of kindness. And I want to provide that energy for everyone I meet. In short, I define my spirituality as caring and altruism. Without YRUU and the experiences it has given me, I wouldn't have been able to come to this conclusion and define my spirituality. I am forever grateful to this church for leading me to who I am today. Thank you for allowing me this platform to speak about my personal journey to who I am.
If you have ever tried to describe a dream to someone or a sunset, you'll know this. Language fails consistently in its attempts to represent human experience. The problem is that humanity is so inconsistent and unconstrained that it is completely antithetical to attempts at structure. I believe that the tragedy of language is the sheer loneliness of it. It is, at its core, an act of desperation to reach across the boundary that separates me and you, us and them, and to know them and to be known in return. The foundation of love, of connection, is just this: understanding. If we don't have a way to convey to someone the scope and depth of who we are in perfect detail, then we are reduced to a very solitary existence. We are left alone in our skin because, like the strange dream or exceptional sunset, the limitations of language reduce us to the worst thing a person can be: unknown. I see poetry as another human attempt at connection. The reason that poetry succeeds is that it is language on humanity's terms, shattering convention and twisting the wreckage to evoke something shared between the reader and the creator. It counteracts the failures of language by imitating humanity in its inimitability and pure chaos. Poetry, in this way, climbs into your skin and understands you. In its efforts to know the reader, poetry draws a line between the individual and ties it to the universal. It tells you that it knows who you are purely because you are not in this alone. Knowing and being known. This is poetry's endgame. I want to tell you a story about love. As I've said, love is understanding. Love is splitting the world with someone, like an orange. Love is inviting someone into your skin to stay a while. Love operates on the principles poetry is defined by, and poetry operates on the principles humanity is defined by. But why? Why do we love? What motivates us? I think that love is intrinsically tied to survival, by which I mean humans are driven by love because we are afraid of mortality. We are driven to make our time on Earth, short as it is, bigger than us and meaningful in some way. The more conscious we are of death, the more desperate we are to be loved. The feeling that everything is falling down around us pulls the trigger on the need to reach out again and again and again, on saying I love you as a reflex and not a calculation, on the significance we impose over a touch, a glance, a sigh. The shorter and more syncopated a life is, the greater the desire to plant flowers and lace our fingers together. I am going to read for you now an adaptation of a visual poem about love, to set the stage for what poets call the turn, or the volta, in this homily. It is called The Kiss by Grendel Menz. Follow any love story long enough and someone will have to die first. Come on, baby, I'm tired. Let's speed up the process. Here's the chapter where I threaten to eat you. Here's the back room where I admit that I can't. I don't have the stomach for it. Follow any love story long enough, and someone will have to leave first. The title of the book is naturally The Kiss, and you open it to hundreds of pages describing one moment, one gesture, one bridge in the dark, and close it with no resolution. Not that kisses don't end, only that the author can't find the words that would make the immensity of their desire justified instead of depraved. So this is the turn, the part where I reveal that all of this is just an overly involved metaphor for my generation. My generation is marked by this inescapable feeling that we are growing up as the world ends. I want to ask you now to look around you with our eyes. This year, this is the strangest year of your life, but you've seen a lot, you've got decades on us. This year is defining our youth, our coming of age. It is defining my generation. We are growing up with the fear of the world collapsing on top of us like a burning attic. We are making contingency plans with the knowledge that the future makes no guarantees for us the way it did for you. I believe this uncertainty and fear drives us more strongly toward engaging in love and making love important. We are marked by a profound and desperate desire to love and be loved, know and be known. If there's a lesson to be found here, it is that there is something of merit in loving like your life depends on it. Because make no mistake, it does. Look to the children, but not because we are going to save you. Look to the children instead because we are engaged in the task of saving ourselves. Even when the world isn't buckling, teenagers are known for loving hard and fast. So don't think that what we have is shallow, because it is the deepest thing we know and it doesn't have boundaries or breaks. We aren't bound up in taxes and warranties and doctor's appointments. We are busy making life meaningful, because love is the only thing anyone has in this world and we're just young and scared enough to know it. My generation, we're defining ourselves in terms of love. We're looking for it everywhere. We're giving it all we have, and we're learning what it is like we're searching for a light switch in a glass room. If there is a challenge to be found here, it is that I challenge you to love others the way that we do. If there is a challenge to be found here, it is that you should love so intensely that it is indescribable, but for an armada of poems written about it. I leave you with one last piece of a poem from Snow and Dirty Rain by Richard Sykin to consider. When we were little, we made houses out of cardboard boxes. We can do anything. It's not because our hearts are large. They're not. It's what we struggle with. The attempt to say, come over, bring your friends. It's a potluck. I'm making pork chops. I'm making those long noodles you love so much. This is the map of my heart, the landscape after cruelty, which is, of course, a garden, which is a tenderness, which is a room, a lover saying, hold me tight, it's getting cold. We have not touched the stars, nor are we forgiven, which brings us back to the hero's shoulders and the gentleness that comes, not from the absence of violence, but despite the abundance of it. The lawn drowned, the sky on fire, the gold light falling backward through the glass of every room. I'll give you my heart to make a place for it to happen, evidence of a love that transcends hunger.